All right, on to problem 18-3A. And so this is our big problem for the chapter, but it's not that much different from the prior problem that we did in 1812. Essentially, we're going to do the exact same thing, except first we're going to calculate it on a departmental basis, and then we're going to compare it to an activity-based rate, and just to see if that changes how costs are allocated to the product. So really nothing new here. We're just going to do more of a comparative look instead of just a one-sided look. So in this problem, we have Black and Blue Sports manufactures two products. We've got snowboard and skis. And then it tells us the factory overhead incurred over here. And then it tells us our activities, how much of that indirect labor is going to be allocated to each of the activities. It tells us what our activity base is. And then it tells us what the activity-based usage is for each one of the products. Okay, almost an identical setup to what we had in problem 1812. And so the part number one, it says determine the factory overhead rates under the multiple production department rate method. So looking at it, we're breaking costs out per department instead of per activity here. And then it says the total factory overhead is $310 and $540 for the cutting and finishing departments, respectively. Okay, so we need to calculate our production department rates. So factory overhead, it said that it was $315 for the cutting and $540 for the finishing. And based on direct labor hours, and so there was total direct labor hours of 6,000. So now we just divide our total cost by our driver. All right, so now we have a departmental rate for each one of the departments. So now we want to allocate that to the products. All right, so for under snowboards, for direct labor hours, let's see, they had, so the cutting department, let's see. So total direct labor hours, 4,000 direct labor hours right here. And the finishing department right here is 2,000. So then our cutting department rate we calculated here. And the finishing department rate we calculated here. All right, so that's going to give us total factory overhead for the snowboards of 390,000, and number of units, that's right over here, was 6,000. So divide our cost divided by the number of units, we would allocate $65 of overhead per snowboard. All right, let's do the same thing for the skis. And so the skis in the cutting department has 2,000 direct labor hours. The finishing department is 4,000. Assign our departmental rates of 52.50 and 90. Multiply that out. So the total overhead for all the skis would be $465,000. They did 6,000 units as well. Divide that out. So we have $77.50 of overhead per ski. Or pair of skis, I'm assuming. All right, so under this basis, under the departmental basis, snowboard receives less overhead per unit than the skis do. So, all right, so now in part 3, we want to look at this on a activity-based unit instead of a departmental unit. And so, first of all, we need to, instead of breaking it out by department, we're going to break it out by activity. And so the total overhead for the production department right here is $237. For materials handling was $270. And then we also need to allocate costs from the cutting department up here, $156, and the finishing at $192. All right. So the activity base for the production and control department is number of production runs. And so we have total runs of 500. For materials handling, it's number of moves. And so the total number of moves is 7,500. The cutting department is units, or I'm sorry, direct labor hours, which we already have up here. And then let's divide the cost by the activity base. And now we have our activity rate per activity. All right, so then in part number 4, so now we're going to take our cost on an activity-based rate and apply it to each one of our products. So apply it to our snowboards and our skis. So for production control under snowboards, we have $430. Materials handling is $5,000. Cutting department $4,000. Finishing department $2,000. And then we have our rates, which we calculated up here. Messed up the box here. Put the box back. So now I multiply our activity-based usage times our rate. So total cost allocated to snowboards is $551,820. Our volume is 6,000 units. Divide that out. Okay, we had $91.97 per unit. So let's do the same with the skis. So for the skis, they use, for production runs, they've got 70. And we got 2,500 for materials handling. Cutting department is 2,000. Finishing is 4,000. We can just copy our activity rates over. Now multiply it out. All right, so now for our activity-based costing, as far as how we allocate overhead, snowboards get allocated $91.97 versus when we did the departmental rate of $65. That's a pretty big difference. And so if we look at the detail, the departmental rate is just kind of lumps everything together. So we can't see that. So we look down here, it's like, oh wow, so actually when it comes to production control, snowboards have 430 production runs compared to only 70 of the skis. And that's a big cost because it's $474 per production run. So whereas the departmental way of doing it just kind of aggregates that, and it kind of assumes that it's a pro rata split, when that's not the case. And so we lose a lot of detail and information just doing the simplified departmental rate. Whereas we look at this, hey, actually snowboards are probably actually quite a bit more expensive to make than we thought. And so that's going to be a big factor in our decision making as we try to price this out and be competitive. If we had a small markup on this, maybe we're selling snowboards for $100 a piece. Here they cost $65, and that's just overhead. That's not counting direct materials. We might think, oh, okay, hey, that's enough to make a profit. When really, no, our cost is a lot more. We could actually be losing money and not even realize where we're losing it at. So, understanding cost, understanding how each product drives cost is really important in any business as it goes through and tries to price things and be competitive. So, always good to have more information, and the more we understand our products, the better for sure.